And we are back with you. It's 7:45, quickly approaching 7:46. And that means it's time for us to hear commentary from Kingsley DeFreitas. Kingsley, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning. I have to agree with you with some of the comments you made recently because you meet some young professionals like teachers and stuff, and you ask them to come on a program to express their frustration or whatever. They will say, "Wait, don't buy WEFM?" Yeah, nah, me ain't coming on there. Me want somebody to associate me to be a ULP. Sometimes I say, "Excuse me." I mean, I really can't understand what's going on in today's society. And we hope that young people will come forward and express their position to participate in today's politics or wherever they get. You know, Keisha and Shannon name it always call for a while, especially this election. Make himself available and join the FDP. And people will take a beating at him left, right, and center. I never knew about Keisha Peters, Miss Senator Peters. I never knew about Senator Morgan. And they are part of the ULP. One is a member of parliament by the Ministry of Social, and one is the Deputy Speaker. And I listened to her the last session of parliament. She did follow up my expectations. She did a good job. But you could imagine if those two young ladies, they make themselves available and say they want to join the NDP, they get some licks left, right, and center. And I often wonder, as you said, if it's the rank and file of the ULP are just connect blind supporters of the ULP who will beat up on these people because they don't think they should join a political party who is in the opposition. I will get the impression that they're just there to oppose. So I'm hoping that your listeners paying attention. Let's use Kijon Shallow as an example. And you will see the barrage of attack they will make on him. I heard some few nights ago a very influential speaker on radio, Isa one, use a strong word to describe Kishore Shallow. I'm not going to repeat the word because I can't prove that. And he gives that position based on politics. And I tell you something. Let me just go on to Shane Marshall and Alexander. And as old people say, if you know, you come, you go on. I hope that people who made a mistake will be given a second chance. But it appears if you make a mistake and you're part of the ULP, you'll be getting forgiveness from a wholesale standpoint. I don't know if Kishore Shallow made any mistake. As you said, me how to judge nobody. But because he make himself available to be a candidate, he's being beat up left, right, and center. And I am afraid of the circumstances that exist today. Because I get the impression that if you're not in sync with the ULP, you have to be brushed aside and be treated with contempt if you're not a part of the ULP. And that is unfair. And I'm glad you raised that topic, and I hope person go on directly follow it and read it for what it was and put themselves in Field Marshal position, Al Alexander, Anthony Denny, and quite a few of them who they are. And they will tell you how important it is to be given a second chance. And you put yourself in the corner, you keep on shadow, and you ask yourself, where did I went wrong? Because I make myself available to be a candidate for the NDP in opposition. I must submit myself to all the abuse and disrespect by people. Well, I will tell somebody to listen and you're young. If you have a fragile character, join the ULP. If you make a mistake, they will forgive you. Oh, have a wonderful day. They see all the right here. Morning, bright and early.
All right. Have a good one, Kingsley. Thank you. And that was today's commentary with Kingsley DeFreitas, and he was just continuing a bit on the points that we raised earlier this morning with regards to the voices of young people here in SVG, voices of young people with regards to their thoughts regarding politics and just, them being vocal about certain things. All right, then, Dianna.
Well, he did raise some more of the very valid points that we raised this morning. Another of the things that he spoke about is the tongue lashing. And I can't disagree with Kingsley in saying that whenever a young person puts themselves out there politically and otherwise, but as long as there are political ties, they receive this tongue lashing from the public, which I cannot say I have noticed the same for a particular other supporters. Let me just put it like that. But that is something that does happen a lot, and you find it at all levels, as we have seen. You get it from the smallest man on the ground to the highest level of authority here in St. Vincent. You're taking okay.
We can take the call. All right. Hi, Joshua. Morning. Joshua?
Not you, David.
Hi. Good morning. Good morning, ladies.
Morning, Joshua. Morning.
Unfortunately, the subject you're discussing is not going to go away. And as usual, I was expecting to hear the phone lines jammed with calls coming in. Now, this is all related, okay, before you cut me off for my 2 seconds. This is all related. Tomorrow is our daughter, I got to say our daughter, Mrs. Shakina Richardson Matthias of, what's the name of that hill going up to Fort Charlotte again? Is it Lago Heights?
Going up to Fort Charlotte?
Edinburgh, yes. Mrs. Shakina Richardson Matthias. She celebrates her birthday tomorrow. And I'm telling you something, I don't know where she got it from, but that young lady is as stubborn as Mr. Mark's mule.
You say she's your daughter? Did you say she's your daughter?
Well, I sure don't know.
She's Yulan's daughter. One time she was terrorizing her brother, who is very, very docile. She kept standing up on the table in front of him. So every time she stood up, I would pick her up, smack her on the bottom and say, sit down. One time I got tired. As I turned away, she said to her brother, he thinks I'm sitting down, but in my mind, I'm standing up. I don't know where she got that from. Now, talking about speaking out, Dianna, you spoke about your challenges. I had my challenges with my dad. My dad was a school principal. I taught in the same school with him for about 3 years. Whenever we had staff meetings, all the other teachers would sit down there and say nothing. Guess who challenged him? So one morning we were having breakfast. He said to me, I'm having a staff meeting this morning. And if you utter one word, I'll see to it that you get transferred to Sandy Bay or Union Island or someplace. Back in those days, you didn't want to go to any of those countries to teach because that was like going to hell. And I continued. I challenged him, and we were doing some construction at the school. So he moved to another school, and he actually requested the teachers he wanted to come with him. Guess who did not? Guess who was not on his list?
You?
Me. I was not on his list. But the interesting thing is, once we got home, there was no conflict. But in school, if the guy said something stupid, I would challenge him. But he was still my father, and he continued to be my father. But you have to have, as the comrade says, you got to have broad shoulders. If you got broad shoulders, when it rain come, you get wet, but the man standing below you, he don't get wet because he's sheltered by you. So I continue to speak out. The squeaky hinge gets oiled. Okay, the leaky tire gets replaced. If any of this makes any sense. Mm-hmm. So to Yolan's very stubborn daughter, have a happy birthday, and please change. Be more like your father. Have a great day, ladies.
All right, thanks, Joshua. All right, so we are joined this morning by Nicole. Yeah. Nicole, morning, and how are you?
Good morning. I am wonderful. It's good to be here. Good morning, everyone, everywhere.
All right, so what are your thoughts, though? Because I know that you came in at the tail end of our conversation. So is it something similar that you see happening in Trinidad in terms of young, bright minds not either wanting to speak out, or when they do speak out, that they feel this pressure to keep quiet or want to keep quiet? What is it like in terms of the experience that you've had?
The folks that I am around, the young people especially, they use their voices, and I could single out at least 5, at least a handful, who are really very vociferous. But not only that, they don't mind the criticism because they understand it's par for the course. And I'm going to include myself now, not a young person, but I'm going to say sometimes we do have to get to that point where we speak up enough that we are challenging something that we want to change. So it's important. I know those voices. I know those people. I know the challenge sometimes to stay silent, and I know the challenge sometimes to be silenced. And it really comes down to, what do you want to see the future look like? And how do you want to be a part of the future? And if you do, then there's necessity to include your voice in dialogues. Sometimes controversial, sometimes very difficult, sometimes hard to get out of the hot water, but you gotta say, you gotta speak up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's interesting that I pulled a bit from the commentary from both Kingsley, from Joshua, and you. And so Kingsley spoke about you can't have a fragile mind. Joshua spoke about having broad shoulders. And Nicole, you also mentioned about wanting to see what the future looks like, right? And, I think one of the things that persons need to recognize is that, and as I said earlier in the initial commentary, is that at some point in time, the current leaders, the current managers, supervisors, because we could take it in a holistic sense, right? You are not going to be there forever, right? There is going to come a point in time where somebody has to take over. And if persons are not able to voice their thoughts, demonstrate leadership, how is change, how is change ever going to come about, right? The thing with having a fragile mind is that I can see after a while, it beats people down. It breaks your spirit. And one of the ways in which persons whose spirits have been broken, one of the ways in which they just don't want to have anything to do with the system or the country anymore, they leave the country, right? And then we see them on social media commenting on things that happened within our country, and we get upset with them. But remember too that they have been a part of the system, and for whatever reason, they were pushed out of it. They were pushed out of the country, and now they find it safer to comment where they are, in whichever country they now reside. So is it a case where we want for some of these young, bright minds to leave the country, or do we actually want for them to be here, to be a part of the process of change, but allowing them to have their voices, right? And I think that is one of the things, because I was looking at, but I won't call out who it is that was speaking, but there was a clip that was shown from Parliament, and I looked at the comments under it, and I thought to myself, had I been the person who this clip was related to, I would want nothing to do with politics, because it was just a set up pull down, right? Now, mind you, I can take it that you do have your points, you do have your opinions, but there are times when persons get personal, right? Are we listening to persons for the points that they put forward, or are we going to look for, the little things that make us different in a sense and try to pull them down based on it? And after I looked at that and I saw the comments, I was like, you know what? I would never be a part of politics, because it's not to say that you don't have a voice, you don't have an opinion, but when it comes down to that personal level, you could only take so much as an individual. And the persons who want to see change, how much are we going to expect them to take? The PM does say his back is broad. And I mean, there are times when it seems as if things don't ever bother the PM, I guess because he's been in it for so long. But I suppose one of these days when he's out of office or whenever he is fully into retirement, to have that sort of conversation with him to find out, well, how did he handle it? Is it a case where he masked it in order to be able to continue his work, or did he actually feel the weight of the crown that he was wearing? So that's just something there, thinking ahead, like long term ahead. But yeah, right. We have to be open and embracing. All right. And don't think that a younger person saying something is a challenge. It's not a challenge. You have to have the youth along with the experience. All right. So, yeah.
I think that those personal attacks come when people have run out of valid points to make. Because if you're going to war politically, then you should be attacking the mindset of what causes you to vote for that particular thing, or the policies that you're against. When you start to get real personal, digging up things from what people did back in 1982 and all of this thing, I think you just run out of points, but you're trying to find as hurtful as a thing as possible to do to them.
But you see, that is exactly why it is that I say we do not know how to engage in debates, right? Because even Dianna and myself, we get into a quarrel. The first thing it is that I am going to comment about something about maybe her physique or something. I am going to look to comment about that, as opposed to challenging the point that she has made. So this is why there are times when I say, you know what, I'm not going to get into a debate with just every and anybody.
Correct.
Because it's not going to be worth it.
Correct.
If you cannot debate with an individual based on the point that they're making and not become personal, then it shows that you are shallow in your thinking. And it's just something that to yourself, you had to know it ain't making sense.
I keep saying critical thinking needs to start in the classroom. And you see, once we start putting critical thinking on the curriculum everywhere in the world, people will find ways to challenge the status quo with less attacks, less addressing things from that perspective of what we want to really fix or change, and not, I need to attack you because I don't like you personally. And inside of the leadership space, be it corporate, be it inside of any sphere, be it in clergy, be it everywhere, and of course in politics, we always have to understand, why don't we just remove the simple and the petty and the mundane from what we really, really, truly want to address. And sometimes, and I keep saying it, particularly in the Caribbean, I find we're not good at hard conversations. We're not good at having a difficult conversation that comes with problem solving. And we don't come up and bring the solution on a platter and say, well, this is what we bring to fix, and this is now the strategy to get it underway, to have it fixed. And we have to change that. And I think the classroom is a good place. There used to be a subject called civics long ago in Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know if it was across the region, but civics was a good way to apply critical thinking inside of a sphere of many other subject matters. So it was kind of like social studies meets everything else. And I feel like we need to put that on the curriculum worldwide now, because look at the whole world, right? But then, of course, you need to funnel it and bring it back into the region.
I know what says that I did critical thinking was because I did English lit. I did English lit up to college. So I had to do critical thinking. Had to do it, right? Couldn't get away with it. All right. So I see somebody here making a comment about words don't hurt or something to that effect. Words don't touch.
Oh, I think he's saying, it's the thing they're typing in pieces. The politicians make up their mind words because words don't touch them. They don't care. So I think it's
okay. And then I see somebody here on the live saying people need to realize that opinions are just that, opinions. Everybody does not look at the situation the same. It doesn't make it right or wrong when it comes to opinions. Now, this is their opinion. And yes, I do agree with that, right? And you know, one of the other things that I always say as well too is that when we are debating, it's to be heard, not necessarily for me to actually agree with you, because I could still maintain my position, but it's just for us to be able to understand where each other is coming from without having to adopt that other person's position, right? So, yeah.
Another person says, if you stop to cast a stone at every barking dog, you'll never arrive at your destination.
Oh, look at you, Joshua.
I think, you know, when I sit down and I think about a lot of the behaviors that we exhibit today, I feel like it was passed down from our previous generations. Because how are you telling me that after they have died and gone, some of them are they're old and they're not really involved in these things anymore? Here we are, a brand new generation today. We're doing the same thing. This is what you taught us. This is how you taught us how to behave, unfortunately. And so now I guess we have to be breaking generational curses globally.
All right, and with that, we are heading on out of this particular topic. Krempel Asadate. All right. Boy, the one thing to do is don't say anything about your post that, because it can be used against you. All right, time for an SPJ. It is 8:07, quickly approaching 8:08.